Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be once again talking about kind of the mid to long range outlook. I will briefly be touching on a short term outlook as well with regards to the cooldown and what to immediately expect across the United States in terms of precipitation. But the main focus will be these two potential twin systems that the models have been increasingly kind of honing in on. Both of these systems are still pretty far away and the confidence around them is pretty low, but the models have been showing them pretty consistently now, and I want to give you the latest update on them. I'm going to start off by looking at the GFS model, but I will also be showing you the European model, as both of them have pretty insightful information, and it seems the European has finally started to pick up on these systems. So just to let you guys know, right here at the right hand top corner we have the hours ahead in terms of the future. You can see +6 and the time of when this graphic right here is roughly showing the precipitation. So as of right now we have current time, and as I go forward you can keep a track of that over here. So the GFS, right now we have basically a lot of monsoon activity across the southwestern United States. It is delivering quite a bit of precipitation across Utah, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and that will continue for the next few days. But as this pattern breaks and this cool front, or this cold front that we have associated with this little disturbance, little low pressure, kind of another high pressure that's going to swing a little, clip the northeastern United States. It drives some of this moisture away from the southwest and also opens up the moisture to actually have an area to go into, as this blocking high pressure with the cool air that is currently going on across much of the United States. As that high pressure also moves away, this monsoon moisture has a venue to escape into. And this will provide some quite heavy rainfall across, say, Kansas, Oklahoma, and into portions of Arkansas. You can see that the colors on the GFS into Thursday and Friday are pretty bright across these areas. The next area that we have to watch for and is a concern is portions of northeastern Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, and into Missouri. That will be occurring into Thursday and Friday. So if you live across those areas, please heed warnings from the National Weather Service regarding especially flash flood warnings, as that seems to be the biggest threat here. The severe weather doesn't seem to be high. Notice, as we put this into the future and into time, we see that it kind of quiets down into this upcoming weekend. We don't have much monsoons. We still have across the front range of the Rockies some precipitation across Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, into the Nebraska Panhandle, Colorado, the Dakotas. And as this kind of festers, more or less, this activity, we see a large area of moisture and precipitation beginning to develop across southern Canada. Now, earlier the models were showing that this, could evolve into some system. Even as, yesterday they were showing a storm across Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Right now they kind of shifted away from that, but again, it's far out, so, I wouldn't be surprised if the models shift back to what they were showing yesterday 100 times and then this shift to something else, which will be the final outcome. But the models are picking up on some sort of disturbance there that will be pretty impactful. And another area that has been pretty consistent, I showed it in yesterday's video, is potentially off the east coast. We have an area that is induced by some tropical activity, maybe a tropical storm, a depression. We will have to wait and see, but exactly how that unfolds. And this storm across the northeast is more representative of a nor'easter in terms of the shape. Notice that what it has is a powerful cold front beginning to develop here on this side of where the cold front would typically be. And it's not necessarily a tropical system or a hurricane type formation. So that's why I'm calling it a storm, not like a tropical storm. But the models have been hinting at that, and that would drop quite a bit of heavy precipitation across the northeast, potentially as early as a week from now, so not very far out. And again, notice that because of the isobars are really tightly packed on this, that would be indicative of some pretty strong winds with that as well. And notice that the most recent run of the GFS with regards to this first system across the upper plains and southern Canada midweek next week, they don't really show much. It shows it developing pretty far north there and kind of swooping away. And the GFS has been jumping around quite a bit. If you take a look at the model run, say from today at 6 o'clock in the morning, it was more pronounced. There was even a little bit of snow on the backside of this with a much stronger cold front. If you take a look at the noon model run, so just a few hours ago, it was showing, again, a more system that is pretty vertical, very positively tilted, and it also is a lot stronger than what the most recent model run showed. So again, while the most recent one does show weakness, it's so far out that it will probably jump back into showing strength, especially since the European now is starting to pick up on that system. So essentially what we will be having is dual storms, one towards the north into southern Canada and the northern United States, and then we will have one across the northeast and southeastern Canada, Nova Scotia areas, picking up quite a bit of precipitation and rainfall. And what is also really interesting with this is that I want to note that even beyond these systems, and say they happen, they don't happen, whatever, right? We have a lot of activity that continues that is very fall-like in characteristics. So behind this system, we have a little bit of cool air that moves in across the United States, as marked by these colors. You can see we have blues, oranges, red on the GFS model, and then as I put this forward, you can see that there's another cold front with even the 540 line appearing, which is basically the freezing line. And you can see that is already pretty far to the south for this time of the year, producing some snow showers across Quebec. And then more low pressures. And essentially what we're looking at is the jet stream, which is coming in further and further south as the winter, as the sun gets weaker, the days get shorter, these jet streams meander further and further south, and along these, I guess, waves, think of it as kind of a river, these systems are allowed to really strengthen and become into these large cyclones, versus in the summer we just have these little patchy area showers, which we're kind of seeing across the southern United States. So it's kind of that duality right now, where we're seeing the north beginning to see these large, powerful fall-autumn storms, especially in long range, with these dragging cold fronts, while the south is still dealing with just like these popcorn type activity, pop-up showers. And then notice that the GFS continues pumping out large system with lots of moisture, more and more snowfall across the mountainous west there. So it's only a matter of time before one of these coalesces into a large beast, large giant, and turns into a large snowstorm or extremely large fall system. To say that the ones we're currently dealing with aren't big systems. Potentially they do have their own power, but they are still smaller compared to some of the really large cyclones we see in fall. Now we're looking at the European model. Again, same thing. We have the time chart right here so you can see what day it is in the future. This is at 1 p.m. August 30th, so this upcoming weekend. We have a high pressure that is in charge across a good portion of the United States. Notice how it's just repelling all the moisture to a side across the south, again festering across the front range of the Rockies into Nebraska, South Dakota, and into portions of New England and southeastern Canada. Rain activity. Again, nothing major, just kind of showers, storms, typical stuff you'd seen during the summer / early fall. Now the European, like the GFS, now introduces both of these systems. So you can see on the European it's also very clear. We have two models that are usually in disagreement, agreeing on something that is still pretty far out, 150, 160 hours out. So what we do see is a large, again, almost tropical-like system you'd want to think, but it's not. It doesn't have the characteristics of a tropical system. It still has pretty strong winds, loaded with moisture. So we'll have to see if it, it can evolve into something more tropical. But at this point in the ocean, there are cooler temperatures, so it would have to start further south in order for that to happen. And the models don't seem to like that scenario. Do note that it brings, again, a lot of rain, a lot of showers, and a lot of wind for the Northeast and New England into upcoming next week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And look at the European right there doing what the GFS was doing these last few days, developing a pretty, again, very positively tilted system here in terms of positively tilted. So you can see that it is almost vertical, still a little bit of a positive tilt there, almost become negatively tilted by the time it moves towards the east. Again, a lot of showers and rain on the backside of this. If we were a little colder, that would all be snow if it was later on in the year. It drags a powerful cold front to the south all the way into Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, into the UP of Michigan. Again, exactly where this system sets up, we'll have to wait and see, but it does seem to drag a pretty strong cold front through much of the Northeast there, and behind it we do see a blast of cool air, which both the European and GFS agree on. And with that cool air, the jet stream gets further south, and that jet stream allows some of these larger, bigger storms to fester and build. Notice the European kind of shows one trying to develop, but it fails. The GFS is more bullish with some of these larger systems, as the European in a really long range seems to dry things out and returns more to heat, while the GFS seems to be more stubborn and wants to show more large system development. So at this point, the snow isn't a guarantee, but again, all it takes is one of these systems to develop into a nice storm, develop that comma shape behind the backside of that low pressure, as I showed you, and I emphasized by circling earlier. The European shows all rain behind it, but if it's a colder scenario, kind of like the GFS, that could definitely produce a decent bit of snowfall. In regards to the short term, you may be wondering where the precipitation will fall in the next 48 hours. And for that, I want to take a look at the HER model. This is a high resolution model that shows us precipitation because that's what I have selected for the next 48 hours. It comes out every hour, this model, and every 6 hours it goes out to 48 hours. So notice the main activity is going to be across the southwest and west. A lot of monsoon activity, quite impressive. Even though it is monsoon season, this is still really impressive precipitation across Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. Very, very heavy rainfall, and that is why there are some flash flood warnings and flash flood watches. Notice it starts moving out into the plains. Still precipitation across the west, you can see into tomorrow, but it's more centered now, especially with this cold front, wicks some of that moisture away from it, and we start seeing precipitation develop across Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and that's the area we're concerned about because there could be wave after wave after wave, and what meteorologists like to call training of thunderstorms. Notice, even from a tropical disturbance, there could be some precipitation that makes its way into Southern California. Definitely, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And a weak cold front that brings some showers and storms across Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. So for the next 48 hours, the total accumulated precipitation across the United States and Southern Canada look like this. Idaho, Montana, Utah, Northern Utah, those areas seem to get the brunt of the monsoon, but threats of rain exist anywhere across the west. A little bit of that tropical moisture swooping into California potentially, and then some very heavy rainfall potentially across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, reaching even 3 to 4 inches of rain. And we also see some showery activity across the Great Lakes along with some cooler air. So it's really going to feel like fall, especially for the northern areas. That is basically it for today. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the weather, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.